Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. It is exactly 11 a.m., so thanks to those of you who have joined right on time. I will give it a few minutes just to allow some other people to catch us right at the beginning. So let's get started in a few minutes here. Let's say 11:05. Thanks so much, guys. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We are going to be talking about working with buyers, and I want to spend some time today specifically talking about how to pre-qualify them and how to prepare your buyers for the offer stage, especially if you're going into multiple offers. And probably staying away a little bit today about the actual forms and whatnot and web forms. If you guys are interested in that, we've covered it in other webinars, and I will address it again, but I really, again, just wanted to focus on preparing your clients. Just it is a busy time right now. People are finding themselves in multiple offers. So just taking that stress off at the beginning, I think is really important right now so that buyers feel comfortable going in to a situation where there are other offers, right? And feeling really confident in your abilities as well. So that's really what we're going to focus on today. If you have questions or situations that have come up, please share them with me. That way we can interact and make this topical for you guys. So yeah, let's get started. So of course, in order to work with buyers, we want to be receiving those buyers in our CRM. We're so fortunate, of course, that so many people start their home searching journey online. And of course, we're affiliated with Zolo.ca, which is Canada's leading real estate app. So obviously, a lot of people start their search there, and that's where most of our leads are going to come from. But I did just want to give you a couple of tips as well in your CRM in order to really find those buyers, right? Most of the time, you're going to see them come in as a hot contact request because they've actually requested information about a property that's for sale. But sometimes you can do a little bit of digging in your CRM and you can actually find people who are looking for properties to buy who maybe haven't requested information specifically yet. But as I said, you can find them, you can reach out to them, you can start that conversation and really sort of, find the gold in your CRM. So let's talk a little bit about that. So in your CRM, there are a couple of ways that I'm going to suggest you look for buyers. Specifically, as I said, they will come in as hot contact requests. So if they are looking at a property to purchase and they do request information, that will come to you as a hot lead. And you'll see them right on your dashboard. You get notified by email and by text message. We certainly don't make it a secret that you have a lead that is interested in information, right? So those are going to be the ones that obviously you want to reach out to first. You're also going to obviously find them in your new contact request folder. But really what I wanted to point out here was the stream button up at the top, just because this is going to pull everybody who is in your CRM. So these may be people who you have already spoken to, so people who you may have in your engaged folder. They also may be people that have registered to the site, they're looking, but they haven't requested information. So they're living in your new leads folder, which you see at the bottom of your pipeline. So those are people who have just registered, they haven't requested information about a property, but they are online, they're looking, either browsing the website. So what you can do by pressing that stream button is you see a chronological list of everybody who has been online in your CRM. And it's a chronological list starting with the most recent. So if somebody is active right now, they're searching in this very moment for properties, simply click on your stream button and you'll see people who are online now. And then you'll see people who were online as of an hour ago, 2 hours ago, a day ago, whatever the case is. And then it's a better way to reach out to people as opposed to going into your engaged folder or your new leads folder, which is obviously sorted alphabetically. It's hard to know which ones to prioritize that way. So again, really focusing on that stream button, super important. It's definitely how you can find buyers that are currently looking that are assigned to you, right? So you definitely have the ability to reach out to them. And again, we'll focus today on how to pre-qualify them, what to talk about, and maybe what you can be sending them between that initial phone call and actually taking them out on showings to really set yourself apart and to really, present yourself as a knowledgeable realtor. So we'll be talking about that as well. This is what the activity stream looks like. So as I said, it is a chronological list. So you'll be able to see people who were online as recently as an hour ago. Just know that that's the default timeline. So that's the minimum it will show. It may be that they were online 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, but it's just going to default to an hour. So basically just following this list, and then you can take a look, of course, to see who it was that's been looking, right? So here, this is a good example. This particular lead, Judith, has been looking at a property in Milton, and it looks like she's taken a look at this property 4 times. So that's a really good hint that she's probably interested in the property. You can see other people have looked at properties 5 times. So yeah, that just gives you an indication that they're probably really interested in that particular property. And for whatever reason, they may not have clicked on more information. Maybe they do have a realtor, but maybe not. So it's a good idea to reach out to them. Just make sure they're finding what it is that they're looking for online, and then stepping in and hopefully scheduling a showing for them, right? And becoming their realtor of choice. So definitely in the stream, you can click on these particular leads and that will take you right to the client profile. So you'll be able to see all of their information, which of course includes their phone number and their email address. So try to reach out to them and hopefully convert them to buyers. So definitely using that stream button. It's a unique tool, designed for us at Zolo. So definitely use it to your advantage. Yeah, so you can see the circles here indicate the lead that's looking and then the number of times that they're viewing the property and as of how recently they were online. So definitely some tools to look at. And then of course, if you do click on their name, that takes you to their client profile. And again, it'll indicate what property they were looking at the most. So obviously, if you're looking in your stream, you're going to see everybody who's assigned to you. But there may be a situation where it's in another agent's CRM. So if that's the case, just be respectful of that. If there hasn't been any communication between this particular lead and another Zolo agent, then you can reach out to them. If you do end up having a conversation, engaging with them, you can ask your growth manager to transfer the lead to you. But otherwise, if there has been communication with another Zolo agent, then again, just be respectful of that conversation, leave that lead where it is. But otherwise, yeah, most of the time, if you're looking in your stream, it's all going to be assigned to you anyway, and you'll be able to see what they're looking at, and obviously their contact information, so you can reach out to them. The other really important tool is the reverse buyer search. So again, this is something that's unique to our CRM, super powerful. So something definitely, it says right there, reverse search, find buyers. So if you are looking for buyers, don't just sit back and wait for those hot leads to contact you. Really do the digging in the CRM and look for some buyers. So a great way to use the reverse search is obviously you want to click on that under tools. It'll take you to this screen that says find a buyer. And basically what you're doing here is you're picking an MLS number. So in other words, a property that's listed. Maybe there's a property down the street from you that you would really love to sell. So you would just look up that property online, copy and paste that MLS number into this search field. And then once you click find buyers, it's going to give you a list of everybody who has looked at that property. So keep in mind, this is going to give you a list of everybody even outside of your own CRM. So again, once you do click on those client profiles, just again, be respectful if there has been a conversation with another agent, another Zolo agent, but if there hasn't been any communication, then this is your opportunity to jump in there and create a connection with this particular buyer. So I think I have some screenshots here. Yeah, so say for example, this is a property that you would love to sell. It's listed for 1.369. That'd be a nice property to show. So you can simply copy and paste that MLS number. And then as I said, put it into that reverse buyer search. And as soon as you click find buyers, it's gonna give you this long list. So I wanted to point out a couple of things here about these icons. So if it's a green asterisk, that is obviously a new lead. So somebody who is living in your new leads folder or in somebody's new lead folder. In other words, somebody who hasn't requested information about a property. They've simply registered to the site, they're browsing, they're looking for things, but they haven't asked for any information. So it is a little bit of a different call. You're not calling in response to a specific property. You're basically wanting to call, thank them for registering to Zolo, make sure they're finding what they need. And I do have a little bit of a script that I'm going to share with you guys, a checklist to use when qualifying online buyers that you can implement into this conversation. So other than that, other than these green asterisks, you'll also see these hot flames. So as you guys probably already know, those are your hot leads. So this particular person has inquired about a property. And again, you can click on that lead and see if anybody responded to her. Again, if there was communication, then just leave that with the agent who's been responsive. Yeah. Otherwise, if nothing has, been attended to, then of course you have the ability there to sort of scoop them. Just a moment here, we've got somebody's mic on and a question coming in. So let me take a look at what that is. When can the lead be contacted that was already in contact with another agent? So as I said, if you see that there's recent communication between that lead and another agent, I would just leave it alone. But if you see that maybe an agent replied a few years ago, you might want to just reach out to your growth manager and see if that agent is still with Zolo. Just find out maybe why they haven't been responsive. And if they're no longer with the company, then of course, that's your opportunity to give them a call back. But the Zolo bot is really good at making sure that if somebody does leave the brokerage, that lead should be reassigned to somebody who is working in that area. So again, maybe that new agent just hasn't been aware of that new lead coming into their CRM. So again, if it hasn't been attended to, then definitely the whole goal is to provide customer service to people who have registered, who have requested information. So if you see that they've requested information and nothing has been provided, then go ahead and give them a call and then ask your growth manager to transfer that lead to you. So yeah, definitely just taking a look at that is the way to go. So obviously there's going to be a few ways that leads come in. As I mentioned, you have your hot leads coming in, people who are requesting information, but then you also have the ability to use the stream and the reverse search button. So, using those tools to your advantage, but then also maybe adding to that. And then, I've talked about this before in doing your own marketing, having a social media platform that you can use, especially if those hot leads or those people that you're reaching out to in your stream and your reverse search, if they do Google you, you want to be present somewhere. Hopefully you have, even a simple personal website, but at the very least, social media, it's free. You can create a business page just so that people can verify that, yes, you are a realtor, you're active. Hopefully you have some reviews in there. I think a lot of people choose service providers now based on the reviews that they have. So, definitely having some sort of online presence to really help you capture these leads, right? Come across as reputable and in the profession. The other thing that I like to suggest as well is having some sort of email service provider so that all these leads that you are speaking to, you do want to have a system, even if it's a simple Excel spreadsheet with their email addresses, so that, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, you're sending out a newsletter to everybody. And then that way, if they're not ready now, at least you're top of mind for later. So, it's not going to be every buyer that you speak to that's, motivated to buy something right away. So you do want to play the long game with them. You do need to stay in touch with them. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is by having some sort of newsletter that you send out. So in addition to, the Zolo bot and the CRM helping you capture these leads, you do want to be in touch with them somehow, some way. So social media and having an email newsletter are probably the two budget-friendly suggestions to stay in touch with your leads. So just keeping that in mind. All right, so let's talk about calling buyers. So I always like to suggest, starting off with how can I help you, and then ending the conversation with when would you like to see the property. That works if people have requested information about a property because, you can have a conversation about that particular property, when they're accepting offers, when they're allowing showings, all that kind of stuff. But if you're reaching out to maybe somebody who hasn't requested information, or you see that they're sort of browsing in a particular area, you may want to use this script, if you will. It's a checklist that you can use to qualify buyers. It's an acronym. It's referred to as LP MAMA, and it stands for location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, and appointment. So if you really go through these steps on the call with your leads, then obviously you're going to capture some more information, and it's a really easy acronym to remember to kind of have at the top of your head so that when you are having these conversations, you can verify what it is that they're looking for. So in other words, in terms of location, if you see that they're looking at an address in particular, you might want to refer to that address and say, I see that you inquired about 123 Main Street. Is that the area and where you're looking to purchase a home, right? So you can determine what area they're looking in. You can obviously, of course, then let them know this property is listed for $599. Where does that fall within your budget, right? So creating this conversation so that you can find out, what area they're looking in, what their price point is, right? And then just layering the questions one on top of the other. So then the next question, asking them about their motivation, are they currently renting, or do they have a property that they may need to sell before they buy? So just finding out from there, what their sort of motivation and timeline is. And then of course, we never want to forget about asking if they're already working with an agent, right? You don't want to end up having this conversation with them, providing them all the information, running out and doing a showing only to find out later that they're already working with somebody. So, just ask if they're already committed to working with an agent, right? Are they already committed in writing to working with somebody? Have you signed a buyer's representation agreement, right? And then just, go from there. If not, then great, you can layer that onto the next question, which is about the mortgage, right? Have they spoken to anybody at their bank? Have they spoken to a mortgage broker? Have they been pre-approved? So those kinds of questions to, again, go back to that price question, right? And verifying if they are in fact qualified or if they're just kind of browsing really preliminarily. And then of course, if everything sounds good, then you can go ahead and set the appointment, right? So you can I always like to say, to schedule your day as well, just so that if they do want to see a property and they want to see it right away, hopefully you're not dropping everything.
One second. Hi. Yeah, good morning.
Request. Let me just see here. We've got somebody's mic on. Sorry about that. So yeah, hopefully you're not dropping everything and running out to, every showing request, but you're really structuring your day so that you can let them know, I'm happy to show you this property tomorrow at 1 or on the weekend, whatever it is. I mean, obviously right now we want to be going to the appointments as quickly as possible. Things are selling so quickly. So definitely, suggesting a day and a time that works for you first and foremost, and then hopefully it works with the client as well. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to that. If they want to see it and they're only available this evening at 8 p.m., that may not be your favorite time to do showings, but again, there's exceptions to every rule, right? So you definitely want to be out there meeting people, but again, just trying to have some sort of a structure. So using this acronym LP Mama to help you in qualifying your leads so that you know exactly where it is that they're looking, what their budget is, what their motivation and timeline is. Of course, you want to make sure that they're not working with another agent, and then finding out if they are pre-approved. Something here that I'll mention as well about the pre-approval. It's always my suggestion to go and meet the client, even if they haven't been pre-approved, because if at this point you simply just pass on the name of a mortgage broker, they may or may not come back to you, right? They may use that mortgage broker. They have to go through a whole other process of providing documents and this and that. And by the time they actually do get an answer, maybe they've forgotten about you altogether, right? So take the time, go and show them a property, even if it's not something that they're going to end up qualifying for. At least it's a face-to-face meeting. They'll remember you more this way. And then, of course, yes, provide them with your contacts. Let them know you work with several mortgage agents. Of course, here at Zolo, we have Zolo Mortgages that has just been initiated. So we have him here in charge of that. So if you don't have his contact information, definitely reach out on the workplace group and we'll share that with you. And also, actually, we do have a training coming up with Mahir, and he's going to answer all of your mortgage questions. But he's definitely somebody that you might want to refer business to, because of course he's at Zolo. He'll be able to keep you in the loop, let you know how qualified these clients really are. So really important to have somebody that you're working with. It doesn't always work that the buyer is going to choose your preferred mortgage broker. They may prefer to use their bank, whatever the situation is, but that's why it's so important to meet with them so that they do come back to you, right? Even if they're using another mortgage broker. So definitely set the appointment, definitely meet them face to face. And then in between, as I said, that initial phone call and the showing, hopefully you're sending them information to prepare them and just really make sure that, that they know what to expect in the buying process, right? Regardless of whether or not they're first-time home buyers, having some sort of a buyer's package, which I'll talk about as well. Let me just see here. I'm going to make sure people's mics are off. Sorry about that. All right, so this is something that you can include in a buyer's presentation or a buyer's package. I mean, this can be done in a couple of ways. I would suggest doing it both ways, so that after your conversation, you are sending them a buyer's package by email so that they have it electronically. But then, of course, when you are taking them out on a showing, bringing it with you once again so that you have it as sort of a talking point, right? So this is a really simple buyer's roadmap, and it gives you the steps here. And it's, again, just a really good tool for you also to have, right? So if you are out on a showing, you can definitely, pull this out and refer to it so that you're not forgetting any steps along the way. So talking to them, of course, about getting pre-approved, whether or not they have somebody that they're already in touch with, whether or not they need referrals, right? So you're meeting with them at the property, you're showing them something they think that they qualify for, but then of course making sure that they do get pre-approved. And then at that point you can let them know, once you know for sure what your budget is, then we can narrow down the search criteria. We're going to focus on your particular neighborhood within that certain price point, and then we can search for homes in a more strategic way. So even though you're meeting them already for a showing, you're talking to them about getting pre-approved so that you can narrow down that search, right? And then of course talking to them about the offer process. Another thing that I like to suggest putting in your buyer's presentation are sample forms. So if you go to the OREA website, I'm sure you guys are all familiar that there are forms explained. Those are for you, but they're also really great educational resources for your clients. So you can literally download an agreement of purchase and sale, and in red writing, it explains every single legal paragraph. So this is so important to do up front, just because, again, if you're in a multiple offer situation and you send them over this, agreement of purchase and sale, it can be overwhelming, especially if they're first-time home buyers. If they've never seen this form before, they're going to want to read every little piece of it. And of course, as I said, it's all legal wording, so they might become overwhelmed by the process. So it's so important to prepare them and to disclose to them, show them what it is that the offer is going to look like, so they're familiar with it, they're not overwhelmed in the moment. So having this sort of buyer's roadmap that you can walk them through, and then also having the supporting forms there so that they're familiar with it, right? So talk about the form, talk about what goes with it, including the BRA, including the working with a realtor. You know, that's your relationship between you and the client. You can have a conversation with them about making that commitment to you now that you're meeting them for the first time, or having a conversation about, you know, eventually needing a commitment from them and being their exclusive agent. Talking to them about the importance of using a buyer specialist as opposed to calling, you know, different realtors. Let them know what your role is and how you can make the process easier by showing them, you know, all the different properties that they want to see, instead of them having to do all of the legwork, contacting different agents, contacting who they think is the listing agent. So again, just really explaining the process. So having those forms there allows you to kind of talk about each one. And then of course you want to talk to them about your negotiation skills, maybe, you know, talking to them at this point about multiple offers, what to expect if that's the situation. And you can even say, again, if you are at a particular property, you can say this particular property, you know, they're accepting offers on Tuesday. It's listed for $599. It's likely to go for, you know, high sixes, whatever it is. You can talk to them about this hypothetical property if they were to submit an offer, and how that would go, right? What you would prepare, you know, how it all runs basically, right? So you'd be emailing the offer to the listing agent and, you know, talking to them about maybe the conditions at this point. If it is going to go into multiple offers, it's really important that you do have that pre-approval, hopefully even confirmation from your lender so that you don't have to go in with certain conditions, which makes your offer really, really strong, right? So talking to them about the conditions, the deposit, you know, trying to give the sellers their desired closing date. So all of those things you can talk about with that step there. And then of course, once you are under contract, talking to them about, you know, the conditions. If you do want to go in with a condition of, for example, inspection, you know, a lot of times that's going to be conditional for 5 days. You usually have 5 days to confirm your financing or your inspection, but maybe if we're in a multiple offer situation, then maybe we can tighten that up and we can get an inspector here in 2 days, right? So talking to them about, again, really just making their offer look as attractive as possible and how you're going to do that, what you're going to recommend, and you're telling them about it now and not at the time, right? It's going to be overwhelming for them to get all of these forms, you know, pages and pages of legal paragraphs, and then all of a sudden, you know, they have to book an inspector in 2 days. It's, you know, it's a lot all at once, so prepare them in advance. Also, of course, let them know that if they are satisfied with financing and inspection, that is, of course, when you would go ahead and complete the notice of fulfillment. So at that point, it does become a firm deal. So basically, they have 5 days to do their due diligence. And then after they're satisfied with that, it's at that point that it's firm and binding, right? After that, you know, the lawyers, the mortgage brokers, they take over, they do their magic and things get transferred, you know, for closing day, and just explaining to them, you know, the importance of having, you know, a mortgage broker that's been recommended to them, a lawyer that's been recommended, and of course you can help them with those contacts. So again, just having a really nice buyer's roadmap that you can use as talking points and you can give to them so that they know the process and they feel way more comfortable, you know, starting, you know, the process of searching for homes and submitting offers. Of course, when you are on that initial call, you do want to have the property information in front of you. Even when you're at the showing, you definitely want to be including the MLS information sheet as well, just because you do want to be able to give them information that they're probably going to ask for, right? So if you look at any property on the Zolo.ca website, there are going to be certain things that are hidden, such as the age of the home, maybe even the square footage. Oftentimes square footage isn't even listed for some reason, but just having the MLS information sheet in front of you so that if they do ask you, you know, you're in the middle of a showing, you're showing them 3 different properties and they're asking you, what's the maintenance fee for this one versus the other one? You have that information in front of you so you can, you know, you're organized and you can disclose that. And then of course, you know, down at the bottom of the MLS information sheet, it's going to tell you any additional fees. But more importantly, what I want to refer to here is if they are holding off for offers, you do want to let them know that, right? So if they're holding off for offers and, you know, it's Tuesday that they're going to be accepting offers, and just letting them know that so they know what to expect as well, right? So just having this information in front of you so that you can refer to it and answer any questions that come up. So yeah, so going back to that initial call. So again, of course, anytime your phone rings, you definitely want to be making sure that you're answering your phone professionally. If they are inquiring about a property, then you want to make sure that you have that property information in front of you. If you are driving, just let them know, you know what, I'm in the middle of a showing right now. Do you mind if I call you back in an hour? And then make sure that you do call them back in an hour or whatever it is that you've set. Consider that an appointment because yes, again, you want to have the information in front of you. So asking them how you can help, and then hopefully going through that LP Mama checklist that we spoke about before. So specifically what they're looking for, their location, what their price point is, motivation and timeline, you know, those sorts of questions, and working through each one so that you have a good understanding as to, you know, what their motivation is, and also turning the conversation around to find out where they are in the process, how familiar they are with it. And then of course, that being your opportunity to explain everything that you're eventually going to send in a buyer presentation, right? Some sort of buyer's package. So asking them that question if they're familiar. And if they say, yes, we're familiar with the process, still go over it, maybe not as thoroughly as you would if you were talking to a first-time home buyer, but just making sure that, you know, you've spoken to them about the process and they know that you know, right? You're the professional, and you're sharing with them how it's going to go, so that again you can reiterate that in some sort of a buyer's package. But then of course closing that conversation with hopefully an appointment. So converting your calls as much as you can to showings, and then of course hopefully showing them more than just one. So if they are inquiring about one property, you know, asking them if they want to see something similar and setting up a few properties, the chances of them liking 1 out of 3 is going to be higher than them liking 1 property out of 1. So taking the time to set up a few appointments. Yeah, so offer to show them some alternatives. And then of course, I mean, I always like to remind people that at this stage, you definitely want to be updating your CRM. So in this particular case, if you've connected with them, then you want to go ahead and make sure that you are entering your activity as a call yes, so that they get moved into that engaged folder, and definitely add notes here. So add notes about your conversation, about the motivation, the timeline, you know, if they're working with somebody or not, if they're open to, you know, meeting you and possibly hiring you as their agent, and then schedule a follow-up. So again, if you've had a conversation and, you know, they're not available until next week, but they need to check their schedule, you know, instead of waiting for them to call you back, make sure that you're following up and, you know, you're kind of chasing the lead a little bit, so that you can schedule that appointment. And also be respectful. One of the reasons why we ask about that timeline is, you know, that's going to tailor how you service this client. If they're not looking, you know, for something until next year, but they're just kind of wondering about the market, you know, that might be somebody that you put, you know, in a in your email newsletter, right? And it's somebody maybe that you reach out to just periodically as opposed to every week, right? So if somebody's motivated to find something before the school year starts, that might be somebody obviously that you're going to reach out to more than somebody who's looking for next year. So really understanding that and being respectful of that. All right, so following up with that email address. So in between that phone call and that showing, definitely you want to be following up with an email. You can confirm in the email what their search criteria is. So in other words, you're reiterating basically what you just spoke about on the phone. Hopefully you're confirming an appointment because you were able to convert that call to a showing. And then you can really add to this, and you can send them some links perhaps to your website so that they sort of meet you virtually, right? They can read your bio, they can find out what your hobbies are. You know, they just get to know you on a little bit more of a personal level, something that you probably wouldn't have disclosed during that initial conversation. So sending them a link to your website. I love this idea of sending them a buyer questionnaire. So this was something that was in a buyer's package that I'll share with you. I always recommend Breakthrough Broker because they have a buyer's package that you can download, and there's a 3-page PDF buyer questionnaire, which is great. It has a lot of questions. You can really get to know your clients like that. But maybe taking that questionnaire and turning it into a Google form so that they can simply enter in all the information. Again, hopefully you've captured most of their criteria over the phone, but if not, or if you want something a little bit more in depth, again, creating some sort of a Google form that they can answer, again, just makes you look like you have a system in place. You have a process that you're following, and it'll, again, just make that lead trust you more as the knowledge agent, right? So definitely using tools like this to help you with your process. And then of course you want to be sending them listings directly from Treb. So that's something I didn't touch on before, but if they are looking, you know, for a property in a particular area, you've determined their price, all those questions have been answered, then you want to be definitely setting them up on a Treb prospect search at the very least, Maybe you have your own website that sends listings directly from there. That's, if you have that, that's great. But otherwise using Treb, so that now they're receiving emails directly from you and not just, the Zolo bot, which the search criteria that the Zolo bot uses is based on the buyer leads site activity. So if they're looking at properties that they can afford, but also they're looking at properties they can't afford, they're going to be notified of all those listings that match that search criteria, which may not be their actual search criteria. So that's why it's really important, turn those off if you've had a good conversation with them and convert them to your Treb listing so that now they are getting specifically what they're looking for. And hopefully that will continue the dialogue. If they want to expand their search, if they want to narrow it, then you can continue that conversation so that you're showing them properties that actually match what it is that they're looking for. So really important to have some sort of follow-up email after the phone call and before the showing. All right. So this is a template of an email that you might want to send out. Again, this is short and sweet, but again, you can add the like the Google Forms and questionnaire and buyer package, if you want. But at the very least, keeping it simple, you definitely want to reach out to them, thank them for their interest in properties, maybe a specific property or whatever neighborhood they're looking into. And then just reiterate further to our discussion, I'll send you listings that match the following search criteria. So here is where you are showing that you listened, you understand, and then just set it out what their area, their budget, their bedrooms, and their type of property is. So again, they know that yes, you've captured the right information. And then of course, just letting them know, as a buyer specialist, I can show you any properties that might be of interest to you, right? I always like to let people know that that's sort of the job, right? That you're going to take all the legwork away from them. So they're not going to have to call a whole bunch of agents to schedule different appointments at different properties. You're able to do that for them, right? That's where you're bringing value. And then, please let me know as soon as you'd like to see something, and I look forward to hearing from you and helping you with your home search. So again, this one is really short and sweet, but again, you do have the option to add your buyer presentation. So again, I did mention Breakthrough Broker. They have a ton of templates, not just limited to buyer packages. They've got listing presentations. They have postcards that you can download, coming soon, just sold, all kinds of things. Of course, we do have Hamid, who's also at the office. So if you wanted something a little bit more customized, he can definitely do that for you. But the buyer presentation, I think, is, really useful in Breakthrough Broker. The template is really easy. You download whatever color you'd like, and then you simply update the contact information and your photo. I do have a slide in the buyer presentation that talks about Zolo, which I will upload to the workplace group. So if you guys want to create your own buyer presentation, then you can add those Zolo stats, right? So, and of course, updating it as you need, right? Because now with Zolo, we have over 10 million visitors every month to our site. So that's something really powerful to talk to your buyers about. So definitely including that. And then, if that changes, you want to be able to update that. So I'm going to share with you this other thing that I found recently. It's called Flipping Book. I hope that this works. There's supposed to be a link. And hopefully you guys can see this PDF that's basically turned into a dynamic PDF, I guess, for lack of a better word. So this is something that that I found that I thought was, again, just setting yourself apart. So instead of sending in, a PDF, all you have to do is upload any PDF to this one is called flippingbook.com, and it basically converts this to a magazine style presentation. So let me know if you guys can see that, because I have switched my screen. Sometimes it doesn't show you, but this is what I'm talking about. So you can talk about Zolo.ca, being Canada's leading tech-powered brokerage, #1 real estate app in Canada. 90% of home buyers start their search online. You can find all MLS listings for sale across Canada on Zolo.ca, and 10.1 million visitors per month. And that's the number that always changes. It always goes up. So sharing with your buyers, why they should be using Zolo. And then of course, again, talking about that buyer's roadmap. So I shared, a different one with you earlier, but these are pretty much the same steps. And again, it's in your presentation, right? So making sure that they're pre-approved, that you have some sort of a consultation with them, that you're searching for homes, making an offer, and then how you're going to present and negotiate that offer, and then reminding them there's a deposit that needs to be delivered. They're going to have to do their due diligence and fulfill their conditions. And then of course, that all has to happen before closing day. So just having some sort of a presentation that walks them through the process. And you may also want to share here as well what documents they're going to need to fill out. So again, hopefully you have the explain forms, but you can have definitions here of what the agreement of purchase and sale is, what the buyer's representation agreement is, what the confirmation of co-op is, and what's the working with a realtor form. What are they all about? Why is it necessary? And then just really disclosing these are the documents that you're going to have to prepare, or that you will be preparing on their behalf for an offer. And then what are the different terms that are being used? What should they be familiar with? What's a deposit? What conditions are going to be put in there? What's the closing date? What's the possession date? So again, you're just educating your clients. So now they're feeling like they can really trust you, right? You're talking about the process and informing them on all of these different terms that they need to be familiar with. You might want to talk about multiple offers and what to expect, and then maybe a few tips for winning, right, in multiple offers. So selecting the closing date that the seller chooses, providing a deposit with the offer. So in other words, a copy of the bank draft, if they're comfortable removing the financing condition or inspection condition, or as I said before, tightening up the days so that instead of it being 5 days, it's 2 days. And then of course, price point, really determining with your help what they should be offering, which will likely be over ask. So again, it's just some tips to prepare them, and then maybe letting them know what some buyer expenses are. We get these questions all the time. So if you're prepared with some sort of a package, that answers all those questions, then you don't have to go through it with them separately. It'll all be there for them. And then of course, some financial planning, don't forget, don't forget to disclose that there's the property transfer tax. And then there's obviously a fee for appraisal, home inspection, legal fees. So just letting them know that, so again, nothing is a surprise, right? So you really want to make sure that you are sharing your knowledge so that people feel really comfortable using you as their agent. So I'm gonna go back to the slides here, if I can. Here we go. Let me know if you can see the slides, just because again, sometimes it doesn't like when I switch screens, but the buyer's package that you find in Breakthrough Broker, again, so it breaks things down into a few different things. So there's a buyer presentation that talks maybe about you, your services, the process. So we've gone over that. You want to maybe include the MLS information sheet, which also, I shared at the beginning. You want to have that information in front of you, especially if you're doing this buyer presentation at a showing. You want to be talking to them about the particular property that they're looking at, even if they're not interested in it. You can use it as an example of when this particular property is accepting offers, how that happens, how that process goes down. So, talking to them about that. Using that buyer's roadmap that I shared with you at the beginning, again, that's something you can find on Breakthrough Broker. Talking about the buyer representation agreement and working with a realtor. I know that so many times realtors have, struggle with when to bring this up. If you have a buyer's package, it's just a natural conversation. It's part of your buyer's presentation. And then of course, sharing the explain forms, the agreement of purchase and sale, which you can find on the OREA website. So this was the questionnaire that I was talking about before. So this is a 3 or 4 page PDF that is included with the buyer presentation. So it has a lot of great questions, but it's a lot to fill out, especially, if you're asking them to fill something like this out, during whatever it is. So, really taking a look at this, maybe taking some questions from it, figuring out what you want to ask or whatnot. And then as I said, the extra step, then you can go ahead and maybe create a Google form for this kind of questionnaire. It just becomes easier, right? So actually what you could do is you could even say to them,
yes, I'm just,
it's okay. After your initial conversation, but maybe you don't send them the questionnaire until after you've met with them. Just because that way, you don't want to overwhelm them with information or requests. But once you have met them, you have developed this rapport with them, then you can send them this questionnaire that they'll be ready to complete because you've already talked about it. And you can just let them know, this is going to help me help you. So if you can find the time to just fill out, these 20 questions, I'll be able to narrow down your search and really understand what you're looking for. So again, I do have a link here. Hopefully it works so that you can see how I've just created that same questionnaire using the PDF, but obviously it's easier for them to complete online as a form. So this is a link that you can email to them, and they can email you back with the information that they have. So anyway, I know it takes a few minutes to set up, but I think it's an easier way to ask your buyers to disclose what it is that they're looking for. All right, so let's go back to the presentation. And again, just let me know if you guys can see my my slides. Okay, so I'm going back and forth here and I don't usually do that. So I just want to make sure everybody can see what I'm doing. So let's talk quickly about showings. I mean, this is going to be, as I said, your opportunity to really educate your clients. So of course, you know, you guys know how to book the showings. You know, you're calling the brokerage, you're doing the showings online, or you're booking them online through Treb, but really making sure also that you're bringing with you all the necessary supplies that we need right now. So you're bringing the masks and the gloves. Oftentimes I find that if you are showing properties for sale, that is available. The listing agent may have left some for you and your clients, but if your clients show up without that, you definitely want to make sure that you are following the rules and that you have that ready for them if they don't have their own. Making sure that you're entering your showings into your calendar in a way that, you know, keeps you organized. So if you are going to be showing them 3 or 4 properties, then, you know, set it up as different appointment times and then just keep your status there in terms of whether or not you've booked the showing yet, if you're waiting for confirmation, or if you have the lockbox, right? And then I always like to suggest putting the link to the property, so the Zolo link, just so that you can refer to it easily when you are doing the showings. And then I do also like to recommend putting in the listing brokerage's information, right? If you have the listing agent's cell phone number, that's even better. It just never fails that you're doing a showing and you can't find the lockbox. It's not where it's supposed to be. Maybe the code isn't working. You want to make sure that you have that information really handy, because it's difficult to find that information, you know, when you're going to realtor.ca, you're on your phone and you're in the middle of showings. You want to make sure that you're organized. So as soon as you do get confirmation, of course, you want to make sure that you're entering that lockbox code as part of your description, I would say. And then that way, again, it just helps you stay really organized. All right, so we've talked a lot today about preparing the client. This is, again, another sort of roadmap. So again, from Breakthrough Broker, there's different formats that you can use. This one, I like the look of it. It's, you know, you can't change some of the wording and some of it is a little bit Americanized, if that's a word. But, you know, just having something that, again, is twofold. It prepares the client, but it's also, you know, a reference point for you so that you can go through the different stages and talk about how things are going to go. So all of this is what we already talked about, right? Meeting with a real estate professional, hopefully that's you, you know, and they don't go to somebody else, getting pre-approved, searching for homes, making an offer, negotiating, you know, the best price for them, and then the deposit, and then the final details. So again, just walking them through this, having something that you can follow through. And then of course, this is a natural way to introduce that BRA and the working with a realtor. So if they're not comfortable signing with you on the spot, then, you know, definitely letting them know that a commitment is expected. It's, you know, a contract between you and your client. So just talking to them about that, and really, if you guys have suggestions as to how you bring that up, I'd love to hear from you actually, because everybody has a different style of bringing this up. Some people, you know, will request it, you know, before they even go out on an initial showing. But I find it's better to at least go out to that first meeting, you know, spend the time, meet with them first, and then maybe at that point ask them for the BRA. If they're not comfortable signing right away, then, you know, maybe you tailor again your services to them, right? If they're not really ready to commit to you, you don't want to be dropping everything, running around, you know, and being on demand for them if they're not willing to make a commitment. So just talking to them about that, it's meant to be mutual, right? If they want you to do all of the showings, you're more than happy to do that. You just want the commitment from them that they are going to use you at the end of the day if they find something that they like. So just a couple of tips here about the buyer representation agreement, specifically making sure that it's in the buyer's name. Of course, that sounds silly, but the reason why I bring that up is because if you are representing a husband and a wife, for example, my suggestion would be to put, you know, John and or Jane, and then their last name, just because if they end up buying something through somebody else, but they only put it in the husband's name and not the buyer's name, you want to be representing both of them and individually and together. So using that and/or I think is really important just to protect yourself in a buyer representation agreement. So making sure you're entering your buyers like that. And then of course, you want to make sure that the property use obviously is residential if that's what you're helping them find. But it's not enough to say GTA as the geographic location. So you want to be a little bit more specific about that. It could be multiple areas, but then just say what those areas are. So for example, if you're helping them find something in Toronto, but they're also open to Mississauga, then you want to make sure that you're putting those in. So just know as well, a buyer may say to you, we're thinking about Mississauga and Oakville, for example. We have an agent in Oakville that we're working with, but we'll use you as our agent in Mississauga. So that happens sometimes. So, that's up to you if you want to sort of take the chance. You don't know if they're going to find something in Mississauga or Oakville, but that is something that I've seen realtors enter into. And then that you're helping them in that area only. So just specify that on the BRA. And making sure everybody signs it. There's not usually a schedule for this, but sometimes, I know agents have put a Schedule A to the buyer representation agreement, really, committing to them and disclosing what their services are going to be. Just make sure that if you do enter in what it is that you're going to do for them, that you do all of those things. Otherwise, you're sort of in breach of your own contract. So more often than not, it's going to be that no schedule is attached. But if you do want to maybe attach a declaration of services or something like that, you can do that by attaching a Schedule A to your buyer representation agreement. All right, so really, that was really what I wanted to focus on today, was preparing your client as best as possible, really making sure that they are knowledgeable on the whole process. But I do have a few minutes, so I will talk to you guys just simply here about preparing the offer and really reaching out to the listing agent right even from the beginning, right? So making sure that you are cooperating with the listing agent, trying to be friends with them, asking questions about what the sellers want, just communicating so that you do have a good relationship with the listing agent, right? It's not very common anymore that we present offers in person. So really that listing agent is the gatekeeper. So you want to be really building a good rapport with them, and again, building that rapport, not taking anything personally. If you have clients that, are maybe going to offer less, don't take it personally if it's not accepted, or don't reply to it. Again, that goes back to preparing your client and really making sure that they're presenting something that's fair and reasonable. So yeah, knowing the market, knowing most recent sales, that's, part of you preparing your client, being prepared to negotiate on their behalf. As I said, presenting in person doesn't always happen, but definitely have your clients available. Again, this is part of talking to them about the offer process. If you're presenting an offer on their behalf and you get a sign back and you can't reach them, these contracts have deadlines. So you need to make sure that your clients are aware of that, so that they can respond and make decisions, right? So you won't be able to do that for them. You need to be able to reach them. So in preparing the offer, it's really important that you are in communication with the listing agent and your clients are available. And again, just knowing what the comparables are. I won't get into how to do those comparables. We don't have time for that. But really, just making sure that your clients are offering something that is within the range. I've heard stories from some of you guys where we get people that are thinking they can offer less because of COVID. And honestly, that's just not the market right now. So, educating them on that and letting them know that no, actually things are going into multiple offers. Things are going for more than ask. So it's not a time to be walking in and offering $100,000 less. That's not the market. So, really making sure you're educating them on that. So maybe I'll open it up to some questions here about preparing the buyer, because I don't want to jump into how to prepare the offer with just a few minutes left. So I'm just going to actually jump forward here to one of our last slides. And again, let me know if you guys have implemented a buyer presentation, if you guys have used one before. Let me know, and I'll just pull up this current slide here. If there aren't any questions, then feel free to chat with me in the training workplace group as well. Sharing your buyer presentation if you're comfortable doing that. I share mine all the time. I change it all the time. And then you guys can steal from it what you want, especially the Zolo stats. So I will share that slide with you guys so that you can copy at least the Zolo stats so that you know how many visitors we're getting per month right now. And then of course, updating that as things go. But all right. You guys are quiet with me today, so I will leave it there. But hopefully you guys chat with me in the workplace group, and yeah, like I said, share your presentations. I'd love to see them, and hopefully you were able to take something from today. And I will see you guys on the next webinar. Have a great day. Bye, guys.